thanks for staying with us for this special broadcast. For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Wilson and you're watching A News. President Trump has finished his speech at the Israeli parliament, so let's remind ourselves of all of the latest developments from the Middle East. Trump has addressed the Knesset on a day Netanyahu says will be inscribed in history. Scenes of joy as all 20 living hostages are reunited with their families. And world leaders gather in Sharm el-Sheikh for Gaza Peace Summit. US President Donald Trump hailed the Middle East peace accord as a breakthrough few believed possible. Speaking at the ceremony in the Knesset, he praised American negotiators and regional partners for achieving what he described as a turning point in relations between Israel and Arab nations. Trump said the agreement would reshape the future of the region and open a new era of cooperation.
As partners in peace, and it's pretty unusual for you to see that, but it happened in this case. This was a very unusual point in time, a brilliant point in time. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East.
All 20 living Israeli hostages held in Gaza have been handed to the Red Cross. Hamas has also confirmed their release. All released are receiving medical care and reuniting with their families as they're taken to hospitals for further treatment. Israel also expects to receive the bodies of 28 deceased hostages. Earlier, the Israeli government confirmed that they will release 250 Palestinian prisoners and hand over 1,700 detainees once all hostages are safely returned. Well, a day of historic gestures and emotional reunions in the Middle East as hostages and prisoners return home under a landmark deal. President Trump's visit to Israel marks a new chapter in efforts towards lasting peace in the region. Louis Brown reports from Tel Aviv.
A great, big, beautiful day. Those are the words Donald Trump used to describe today's historic events as 20 living Israeli hostages were released before noon local time, with Israel set to release 250 Palestinian prisoners and more than 1,700 detainees in the coming hours. The coordinated moves mark the most significant breakthrough since the ceasefire was announced late last week. Trump landed at Ben Gurion Airport this morning at around 9:30 a.m. local time, greeted by Israeli officials and international media. Speaking on arrival, he said everybody is happy, whether it's Jewish or Muslim or Arab countries. Every country is dancing in the streets. After landing in Tel Aviv, Trump headed to Jerusalem. When asked by reporters aboard Air Force One if he'd like to visit Gaza, Trump said he'd be proud to do so, adding, "I know it so well without visiting. I'd like to do it." Later, the US president would travel to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt to join the Gaza Peace Summit, where around 20 world leaders are due to attend, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And in another symbolic gesture, Israeli President Isaac Herzog's office has confirmed that Trump will be awarded the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor, the country's highest civilian distinction. The honor recognizes his efforts to secure the release of hostages. Herzog is expected to inform Trump of the award during their meeting in Parliament later today, with the medal to be formally presented in the coming months. We'll continue to bring you the very latest developments from Israel, and later today we'll have full coverage from Hostage Square, where families and supporters are gathering this evening. Lou Brown.
Staying in Israel, as Trump was addressing the Knesset, more than 20 world leaders have gathered in Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh for the Peace Summit, which will see the signing ceremony of the agreement to end the war in Gaza. The Egyptian president, who will co-head the summit with Trump, welcomed the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, Canada's Mark Carney, and a host of other leaders of Arab, European and Asian states. The gathering is set to see the official signing of the agreement aimed at ending the war in Gaza. As the peace deal between Israel and Hamas holds, Palestinians are returning to their abandoned homes in Gaza City. After the ceasefire, dozens of aid trucks entered Gaza as Israel reopened the border.
Thousands of displaced Palestinians continue to return to Gaza City, 2 days after the first phase of a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas came into effect. Israeli troops pulled back under the first phase of the US brokered agreement to end the war. As they move along Gaza's coast, many anticipate the challenges ahead, as much of their city lies in ruins.
I'm going back, and I'm sure there is no life there. Life is completely non-existent. There won't be water or anything. Here at least the water comes on and off, but there will be nothing. There is no life there. Life will be completely non-existent. We will start putting foundations for ourselves all over again. Definitely there are no homes. What can we do? We don't know what to do.
Many are making the journey home by foot or donkey-pulled cart, unable to afford proper transportation. Their hope is that the peace deal holds.
We're terrified the war will start again. We no longer have money to be displaced, nor have any more money at all. No strength left in our bodies because of hunger, fear, and exhaustion. We have no strength left in us even for walking.
Following the ceasefire, dozens of trucks carrying aid entered Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing after Israel reopened the border. Under the agreement, humanitarian aid will be increased and allowed to move freely between northern and southern Gaza along the two main roads. Hundreds of trucks per day are expected to deliver food and medical supplies.
The UK is pledging £20 million in new humanitarian aid for Gaza. The funds will be channelled through UNICEF, the World Food Programme and the Norwegian Refugee Council to provide clean water and sanitation. The announcement came as Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer arrived in Egypt. The UK also plans to host a 3-day Gaza Reconstruction Summit in West Sussex, bringing together officials from the Palestinian Authority, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and several European nations. Development banks and private investors are also expected to discuss Gaza's rebuilding and reforms to strengthen the Palestinian Authority. Well, joining us now to discuss all of the latest developments on this historic day in the Middle East is geopolitical analyst Ilan Scalom and former diplomat Dr. Melih Demirtaş. Thank you for being with us, gentlemen. Now, we've just heard Trump addressing the Knesset. What is your reaction to his speech?
It's to me, yes, Mr. Mitchell? Okay, thank you. I think this speech was not so easy to comment, Mr. because I just watched it for 1 hour. It is not so easy to be diplomatic. I'm so sorry for telling this. Because yes, it is the one-sided relation between United States and Israel. We just believe to diplomacy. We just believe to what's happening now in Sharm el-Sheikh. Also, our president is there. It is the definite maybe motivation of Turkey, just in favor of diplomacy. But the speech, I think, if you watched all of them, and the Knesset speech, I mean, all the members, starting from, of course, I don't know, the I think Speaker of the Parliament, is Mr. Netanyahu's, the opposition leaders, Mr. Trump's. And I think one parliamentarian is expelled from the salon, yes? Because
yes.
Signed from Free Palestine or something like this.
Recognise so Palestine was the sign that was held up there.
Yes, because there may be an important thing that we always thinking that Israel is a democracy. Israel is a Western country, Israel is a democratic country. I couldn't understand this, very sudden move against this parliamentary. Because democracy is important for the United States and Israel. It is all the reason of this war, right? Because of some nations, first of all, which are called some, Eastern terroristic or undemocratic. Ms. Wilson, this war is shaking us in Turkey for longer than 2 years. But this shakes all the world for more than 50 years. In every 5 or 10 years, we're just shocked by the news from the Palestinian people. I don't know how many terror groups, how many separatist groups are arising because of this issue. And now it is solved maybe again from a diplomatic spirit. But we really hope this time it will maybe end with a Palestinian state. We really hope that, because in every 3-5 years, all the world, not Turkey, but all the world is now tired to see such catastrophic results. And now, this Knesset speech and Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Trump's speech, I think that doesn't give any hopes to us to think about some multilateral solutions. I just saw a unilateral, very combined force, which is so, feeling glorious, which is having, of course, an important victory in front of the Israeli people. But I couldn't hear anything about 60 or 70,000 people lost, or United Nations Genocide Declaration, or Mr. Netanyahu's image in front of maybe 80 or 85% of the world as a genocide taker.
So do you not buy this notion of Trump as the peacemaker, and that there finally seems to be an end to this? Yes,
all the words biased, because
a lot still needs to be negotiated. But what do you make of it?
We do not want to lose more 50,000 people. Just this enough, Ms. Wilson. This number is enough. And just you gave the people, with donkeys, you said in your news section. Yes, with donkeys they are. With horses they are. They have not $1 or $2 in their pockets, Ms. Wilson. I know that this United States-Israel collaboration is maybe the richest, the wealthiest combination of the world. With all the technology, with all the financial sector, of course, with all the support they're giving to us, to Turkey, to Azerbaijan, to all this Turkic world, even to Arabic world now, Ms. Wilson. But something is loose, something is very, very highly lost in which is this ethical politics. And I think one country will be very, glorious in this situation very soon. And this country will be China, Ms. Wilson, because China's Xi Jinping, what he said, just 1-2 days ago, I am so ready to have very important support to Palestine. And he said this with, of course, with an important, glorious power also of Chinese people and this Asian maybe rising force. And I think that this decreasing, image, decreasing, I want to call soft politics, soft power of Western world, first of all, United States and Israel, will push these forces. China, maybe Russia, will be more brave to take new actions. I don't want to call these actions as warlike actions, but I will hope that it will be some soft politic actions. At least I hope so, as a former diplomat, as a scholar.
And what about the upcoming summit in Egypt? What are your hopes for this? Do you have hopes that this will finally secure a peace deal, and it will be those countries there that will do that?
Sure. How many leaders do you can count? I cannot count, because any more leaders. We have many important regions there. It is not a Middle Eastern summit. It's a very global summit now taking place there. Even Mr. Starmer just declaring now very important plans about restructuring Gaza. Unfortunately, 2 years later, after 60 or 70,000 people's lost, restructuring is a very important gain. Thanks to United Kingdom and thanks to Mr. Blair, I think, very soon with his own commission. Ms. Wilson, diplomacy also lost important blood. Modern diplomacy lost blood, and modern diplomacy lost soul. But these new generations, these new digital and these new free generations, really they are thinking about investigating. They're really having some very important question marks in their heads. And all the statesmen, I think all the statesmen, starting from this wealthiest and much more strongest one, must think twice about this ethical politics. And we are very, very hopeful. As Turkey, we are always on every table. You saw now, I think Mr. Erdogan is now there, but Mr. Kalin, or intelligence service chief, he really made his best for longer, I think, nights and days for really having this intermediation, this important talks to come true in Egypt. And now we have this fruit, but this speech just happening 1-2 hours ago in Knesset, I really want to not show this to my future students, to my young diplomats, other friends, because it will be a lesson for an anti-humanitarian or unilateral diplomacy. It could be a very good lesson for future diplomats and scholars.
Were there any specific points that you want to go to that makes you say that? Because Trump is hailing himself as a peacemaker.
First of all these members of Knesset, they said from this, of course, from this religious text, it's a culturalist meeting, first of all. The culture is important, Ms. Wilson. Cultural diplomacy, I always believed, also, even in my PhD, I always think about this culture, how we can use culture to make this combination of the world people. But this culture can be used so decisively and so destructively, Ms. Wilson. First of all, we saw it in Ukraine, you know. One leader, one strong leader, who is the Russian leader, always saying about some culturalists, as you also remember from sayings for all Eurasia, for Russian-speaking people, for Russian culture people, if any country leader can speak from their religious text or from their cultural normative rules, then the world will be, I don't know, how can be this new feature of the world? So the first reason why I'm talking this is a much more culturalist meeting in Knesset. In every religious text, it's maybe make the reference, because I think some members said that we just did anything because our religious book said this. Could be true or not, we do not know. But also Mr. Trump said from this point of view, like Judeo-Christian world ideals. Of course, this Muslim or Islamic ideals, this is another part of the story. But still, the story must not end like with this one-sided culturalist understanding, Ms. Wilson. It must end, first of all, with this glorification maybe of one organization, which is United Nations. And I am really very glad to hear that maybe Mr. Guterres will be there, because for years, I think for months, he was also banned, as you know, from this realm, I mean, from Israeli or Palestinian territory. Now, I think much more objective diplomacy, we hope to find in Egypt, I think in ours, we will find this. And I hope that no crisis will happen there, because I think Mr. Netanyahu will not come. He just showed some Judeo, I think, Jewish holiday reason, I don't know. But it is not, of course, an obstacle, even for our president, maybe it will be a positive thing. I don't know the details still, the diplomatic gossips are everywhere. But still, we can say that we need diplomacy, and it will happen, I hope. Despite all of these one-sided declarations, we still hope this diplomacy can go on.
Now, our viewers can see that we're running some pictures there as Palestinian prisoners have been released. The day is not over. Can you talk us through what is expected throughout the rest of the day? We're expecting the release of deceased hostages. When may that be? And of course, the release of Palestinian prisoners now that the hostages have all been returned to Israel.
I also said this before, just nearly 3 years ago, we had maybe one of the important earthquakes in the world, in our southeastern region in Turkey. Unfortunately, all the cities are devastated. And to find some deceased people took, I don't know, tens of days, maybe some of them unfortunately couldn't be found. What happened there is this. It is like a magnitude 9 earthquake happened in Gaza. And in such an atmosphere, I think some bodies, Hamas cannot maybe confess, but they could not find it. I think so, if I am not thinking from this military sense. But all the bombs, I think the military experts counted like they are, how many, I don't know, 50 or 60% more than Hiroshima or Nagasaki atomic bombs. If they can find these deceased bodies, I think in just days they will give them back. But I am not sure about it, because Israel, I think, very in a calculated move, destroyed many places.
And obviously, as we've discussed, today certainly seems like a victory lap for Trump as he's making these speeches in the Knesset. How confident are you that this ceasefire will actually hold?
This ceasefire will go on, but it will go on with not such a glorification of one side, Ms. Wilson. If we glorify something, it must be humanity. If we glorify something, it must be diplomacy. And if I am not wrong, after the genocide of 1945 between this 1938 and 1945, which takes place in the middle of a civilized world, which is Europe. And after that date, we just had an important organization, United Nations. And after 2 or 3 years of this United Nations, we had a very new country, which is Israel. And now, what we must glorify will be this order. Ms. Wilson. It is this international law, it is this international bodies, United Nations General Assembly. Also, do not forget that all this happened after this General Assembly. This means that General Assemblies mean something still, because the people still believe these General Assemblies. The people still believes something above states. States we all created, Ms. Wilson. States we really created for some sakes, for some national interest, for some real politics. Of course, Israel think always that because of some religious understanding it could be created, but still we created it in our minds, and then we make it in a a real world. But
20
more than
world
the
leaders are gathering in Egypt. Surely is that not a sign that there's hope for diplomacy, and that 20 world leaders are all gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh?
If there will be no humanity, then there will be no, I think, long-standing diplomacy. What I will be taking into account after these years, after all these years of this postmodern traditions, after postmodern transformation of world politics, we can say that the countries who are really thinking about humanity will be the real glorious nations. China also must think twice about its maybe internal problems. Also Russia, if they want to be a real rivals to this unilateral maybe policies of Western diplomacy, they must also very, very fastly deal with their internal situation about humanitarian problems. After that, after this point, yes, you can say that, we all can say that, diplomacy can go on, but it will be long-standing if this government really can have at least tiny, Mr. Trump, I think, makes such a move for defining Israel, like such a tiny point in the world, which can be very, very effective in world politics. He's right, it's like a point in the map. But I really want to show that at least such a little of feeling of shame, such a little point of shame if the leaders having in their minds, in their governments, and if they are confessed these atrocities, what they are making in these last 2 years, yes, then they can have a real long-standing diplomacy.
Now, what are some of the key challenges to this ceasefire and to getting this agreement through, as this is just the beginning?
Provocations. The real thing is provocation, Ms. Wilson. The propaganda is provocation's brother, sister, we can call it. Propaganda is already happening everywhere. I mean, Israel's propaganda, of course, Hamas propaganda, we can see, of course. Iran can use this, of course, in the eyes of its long-standing state tradition everywhere. If we accept or not, it's an important state for thousands of years with all kinds of propaganda. But then, after propaganda, we have these provocations. Provocations also can be taken by many, groups. It could be states. It could be very legitimate provocations, but it could be also illegitimate. It could be very like a terroristic, of course, provocations. So we must hinder all kinds of provocations, Ms. Wilson. And in order to do this, we really must have a very small amount of propaganda. Yes, any state can make this propaganda. It's a tool of the game, but still we need at least the minimum level of this, especially at this time. Also from the Netanyahu or Israeli government's side, also Mr. Trump's side, I want to really say this because Mr. Trump really is maybe with his, inner personality, he really makes it with some trade diplomacy, gain philosophy, but with all kind of this propagandist understanding, somehow the half of the world is also, turning their, backwards to Western understanding, to Western world, any kind of intermediation efforts of United States. So we must minimize propaganda and then provocations, and it could come from everywhere, especially in such a phase.
So you don't think Trump is a reliable mediator in this conflict?
He is, but he must have this important, backing factor or supportive factor of United Nations. If he makes some jokes, very, underestimation, please do not forget about the General Assembly, what he's thinking about, yes, tens of years. Maybe they don't have any budget to make some renovations in United Nations building. But in just General Assembly, he had many important also negative thinking to United Nations. If he had some important problems with this global spirit, Ms. Wilson, then the global spirit also can turn one day, it could be 1 year, 1 month, 2 years, very, very easily or fastly to this they can turn again anti-US, anti-West philosophies. Some countries can maybe latecomer, to have this anti-US rhetoric. I know that Azerbaijan, Armenia, they have important agreement between themselves. I really believe this diplomacy. But also we must think about the half of the other world and half of the humanity. What happened to Sumut Fethullah? What happened to grassroots civil society organizations? They are still there. Universities are still there. Scholars are still there. But still, this digital archive is there, Ms. Wilson. I also said that in this previous program, previous years, we all banned maybe all the states, the books, the texts. You cannot find anymore in your schools, in your universities, what is written just 10 years ago. But it could not be, I think today it's not possible.
Talk us through the mood. Talk us through the mood today in Tel Aviv and in Gaza. How is the mood on both sides?
They are happy. They are happy. One side is much more, of course, happy with their normal life. This Tel Aviv or Israeli people, of course, they're with, again, status of their wealth, status of their democracy. Of course, we still believe their democracy. Unfortunately, we see some.
We did hear from the opposition leader today.
Yeah, the opposition leader, Mr. Trump, congratulated him. Yes, no, he is not an opposition leader, especially today. He is really like a minister of Mr. Netanyahu's government. Because yes, this is the grand reason.
Do you really believe that, or do you think that it's a united praise for Trump?
Any kind of word showed that, especially today, because the grand reason of Israel must, have such a reason for such an opposition leader. Of course, he was very strong, even rude, even very having an important negative, attitude towards this Netanyahu government. But especially today, please, yes, Mr. Trump even just said that Mr. Netanyahu, please be moderate to such a kind of leader. He just making jokes to Mr. Netanyahu. Anyway, yes, they are happy. Other side, Palestinians must be happy. At least they have now, at least for now, for a while, they will have a stable days, stable nights. I really do not want to think about such a nights. Please also, maybe you have been also in such crisis atmospheres when you are a journalist in the field. But really, everyone's happy, Ms. Wilson. But this happiness, again, must be not glorified because of this, again, quote unquote, glorious history of one nation or one culture. No, it is the glorious times because of this really multilateral diplomacy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Demirtas, for joining us on this historic day.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for bringing me for the crisis time. I'm here again. Thank you.
Well, thank you for staying with us for this extended edition of A News. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for all of the latest updates on this developing story.